Hello, this is Peter Morrissey from the Stockbury Dark. Working closely with my co-host Klaus Almian from Stockholm, Sweden, we plan on bringing you truly dark stories from one side of the world to the other. We have been busy interviewing many of our friends from our world and subculture, stories dealing mainly with the occult, paranormal, and other dark topics. We really hope you enjoy these episodes as much as we do. What started as a spark from the mind of Klaus has now certainly ignited a huge firestorm of stories that will surely keep you up at night. The Stockbury Dark can be found on iTunes Podcasts, on our Facebook page, the official Stockbury Dark, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as our website, thestockburydark.com. We can be reached at thestockburydark@gmail.com. Please help us spread the word, and thank you for listening. This episode of the Stockbury Dark is brought to you by the Black Market Kitchen. The Black Market Kitchen is a meal service providing you with delicious, healthy, and clean meals. Do you live a busy life and don't have the time to cook, or do you just prefer the convenience of having your meals prepared? With a range of options to suit many tastes and dietary preferences, Black Market Kitchen caters to a wide variety of folks. Perhaps you want to lose weight, eat less processed and packaged foods, and or just improve your overall health. At Black Market Kitchen, they have developed an understanding of the types of foods athletes and active individuals need to fuel their daily activities. They offer vegetarian, paleo, and ketogenic compliant options in addition to their regular clean meals. The gourmet menu, consisting of perfectly sized portions, is updated weekly, providing customers with something new and delicious each week. It is their mission to make achieving your nutrition goals easier. No matter what your sport or diet, Black Market Kitchen wants to help you become the best version of yourself. Streamline your life and order up your meals. Black Market Kitchen offers statewide door-to-door delivery in Connecticut for a $25 fee. If you're local to the greater Waterbury area, stop in and try a fresh juice, smoothie, protein shake, or bulletproof coffee, and grab a few meals from the cooler. They have tons of healthy snacks to choose from, including their house-made keto bars, as well as raw and vegan options as well. Visit their website at theblackmarketkitchen.com. Sign up for the mailing list and have the weekly menu delivered to your inbox. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram at the Black Market Kitchen. Hello and welcome to the Stockbury Dark. My name is Peter Morrissey.
And I'm Klaus.
And today our guest is our good friend Luis Hernandez from Los Angeles, California, formerly of the band Alpha and Omega.
How's it going, Luis?
What's up, Luis?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
We're real happy to have you here, man. We just started this podcast, the Stockbury Dark, just recently. We're in the midst of recording a bunch of episodes before we push them out there. Yesterday we had Colin Young of Twitching Tongues, and today and we're going to round out the week with some other cool guests, and really psyched to be talking to you, man. I told you the premise of the show earlier on, where we're going to start out with talking with people that have a lot in common with us, from our music scene, but we're not going to really dedicate all these interviews to actually speaking about music. Though we're really more interested in hearing people's stories, whether they've had any ghost stories or supernatural occurrences or anything with the occult or
the dark,
any dark topics, and. I remember a few months ago we sat down, me and you in Philadelphia, and started, chatting about things like this. And I knew early on that you were going to be one of the first people I wanted on the show.
You and I also, when I was out in Los Angeles, you and I touched on these subjects too. When we were
Did
hanging
we?
out, yeah, we did.
Dude, that was such a wild night.
That was a wild
We
night.
drank a lot. I don't remember touching base on that, but dude, if you remember anything from that, please. What did we talk about exactly?
Straight up paranormal stuff like haunted houses.
Uh,
I mean, I can't go back and say that we talked about your apartment out there being haunted, but we talked about apartments being
uh,
haunted at places where we had lived. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah, man,
from what
shit's
we
crazy.
understand, yeah, it is. Did you guys get snow today or yesterday in Southern California?
Snow? I
Yeah,
have hit no snow. No, that's not a thing here. I don't think.
I think I
A
saw
little
on
bit
the
of
news
rain.
that it was snowing, but it was somewhere
Oh, really?
else.
I haven't looked at the news at all today either, but it's been nice and sunny where I've been.
Nice, nice. That's good.
Yeah.
So we've heard that you have plenty of stories, crazy stories that pretty much go back a long time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like the way I was raised, I definitely saw a lot. I don't know. My parents were, my mother was a pastor at a Foursquare denomination church, and my father and my mother were both heavily involved in um, missionary work and all kinds of different stuff involved in church and stuff like that. So, you know, being
So,
around. Oh, what's up?
I'm sorry to cut you off, but when they did missionary work, were you traveling with them, or was this previous to your birth? Or
Yeah. No, that was yeah. They. I went to Cuba with my mom. They did Cuba for me. I forgot where they took my sister, and then I stopped. Um, I stopped going. I just got out. I was doing my own thing. I kind of got
Mhm.
away from it. I did go on one missionary trip with them or with my mom. It was me, my mom, and a group of other people from their church and their group.
Right?
And yeah, we went to Cuba. I was like 13. I was around 13, I think. 13 or 14. 13. Yeah.
So when you said was it a Foursquare? Is that what you said?
Yeah, Foursquare.
I'm not
Foursquare.
familiar with that.
They believe in, the Father, the Son, um, the Holy Ghost.
Hmm.
The Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. There's a fourth one. I don't know. Speaking in tongues, things like that. Um, yeah, that's the denomination of Christianity that my parents raised me in.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, essentially like their version of like speaking in tongues. I mean, some people I've heard relate that to Buddhist chanting and shamans or Buddhist mantras and shaman chanting, which is kind of an interesting perspective. But I mean, when you go in a room at a church and everyone's speaking in these weird native tongues or weird noises, and it's kind of crazy.
You've experienced that, then
Oh yeah, man. I've seen some shit.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure. Were you at that age religious as well, or you were just shying away from it? How was that for
Um,
you?
you know, the way I was raised in it, my parents really didn't like force anything on me too hard. I had my friends that I grew up with that were all involved in church,
Yeah.
and their parents were friends with my parents, and we'd all known each other since we were born pretty much. And it was like a pretty good group of guys. We grew up together skating and hanging out and going to church together and going to class and youth group and all that kind of shit. And
Hmm.
it was cool, it was fun. um and my parents weren't ever like super, down my throat with it. They definitely taught us they read the Bible to us and things like that, and
Right.
had us memorize scripture, and but what my parents really instilled in me was never like religion or following the church. It
Hmm.
was they always taught me it's not about religion, it's about your relationship with spirituality, with your connection to yourself and to whatever that means. I mean, they
Right.
obviously were more direct, but present day, what we've caught up on now, all these years later, that's kind of where they stand with it, and I kind of
It's
feel the same.
Yeah.
it sounds very sober, I must say. Uh,
Yeah, right. Yeah, I
yeah,
sound like some fucking AA dude, huh?
Yeah, but it's a very good way of looking at things. I think especially if you're a religious person, it gives you a better grasp on being a good human being, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. I guess. I mean,
I've stumbled across
it's
a lot of Christians and very active Christians that are actually super positive towards the practicing of other forms of spirituality and religions. So
hmm
it sounds similar to uh, to what you just described about your parents' view on spirituality is like be open to it and be positive about it, and then as long as it stands for something positive, sometimes that's good enough.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I believe that organized religion and Christianity and all of that is a crutch for for people, or not, and not even in a bad way. Like, it's an aid for some people that may need it. They need that structure, that organization, that connection, and then and the thing is, the church constantly it evolves over the years. It's why it's been able to survive for so fucking long. It changes with the times, and yeah, it's in 2018. You can't go around bashing homosexuals and hate, like spewing any kind of hate in the present day with all like the social justice shit that's going on and just the evolution of humanity. I believe, I don't know, in my bubble of California, mind you, um I just feel that stuff's cool. Like, I run into a couple of people that are younger Christians, um and they've explained to me their church and how open it is to those things, and that's cool. I still stand by how I feel, though, on it at the end of the day, as far as like church,
Hmm.
you know and Christianity. So,
Yeah.
but whatever, to each his own. To
Right.
each his own.
And that's a good way to look at things.
I
It
think the
is.
corrupt
So,
thing, at the
go
end of
ahead.
the day, I always believe there will always be corruption within an organized religion like Christianity, church. Um, so it's like cool. It's like, oh yeah, you're down for these people and all these other you know perspectives and takes on life or spirituality. But I don't know. Maybe I still have a bad taste in my mouth. I don't know, guys.
So, is there any certain? I mean, obviously, the premise of the show is the dark. Do you have a certain story that you would like to touch on um, during this recording?
Yeah, yeah. I guess we can talk. We can definitely talk about that missionary trip. That was a lot of things happened on that trip that definitely very real, very gnarly. So
So, this is the trip to Cuba you're talking about.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I went to
Yeah.
Cuba on a missionary trip with my mom. It's funny. One of my best friends actually came. It was like this group of older people of my mom's age. My mom's 63 now, so whatever, you do the math. But
Hmm.
um, and then me and my friend Israel, who's also like the same age as me, and we both went out there, and I mean, it was crazy, man. It was crazy.
When you guys went out there for how long did you stay?
You know what? I'm not sure. I feel like at least over a week,
Hmm.
or no, a week. I think it was a week, maybe. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but I do remember key points of it. I mean, this is before Cuba was open to the U.S. You couldn't fly from the U.S. to Cuba.
Right.
So
Did you
we
fly in
dropped.
from Canada?
No, nah, man, we're in LA. We drove to fucking Mexico. But
Ah, that's right.
yeah, we
That's
went
right.
south of the border, went down to Mexico, and flew out of Mexico
Mm.
to Cuba. To fly there, you had to have, you have to go through all this stuff. You had to get a visa, and if you're going for some kind of missionary work, you have to get a religious visa. So that's like a big thing. It was like this. It was a big deal to be doing that back then.
Right.
Going there for that. Um, but yeah, we went down there, and I remember us getting off the plane late at night. It's the first time flying international, obviously, and being on a long flight. And I just remember getting off the plane, off the side exit, like onto the runway, and there was these police or army, army men with AKs, and they're standing there as you get off the plane, and they're asking for passports,
Mm-hmm.
demanding your passports. I'm fucking 13 years old, and
Pretty crazy sight to see as a 13-year-old, you
Yeah.
know.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And the guy, I hand this fucking gnarly looking dude with an AK my passport, and he's literally like, I remember looking at him and just staring at the gun and just watching him kind of fumble as he looked through my passport, thinking like,
Mm-hmm.
wow. This is a good thing I've always thought about. That's like the first time I really looked down like the barrel of a gun almost,
Yeah.
like it was crazy. But and going through customs and all of that, and it was just crazy in that country, a third world country, a communist third world country at 13. And so that's the foot we're starting off on, and
Yeah.
then and just the Cuba and the culture is just so backdated, to the 1950s. I don't know. I can't remember exactly when Castro came into power, but I want to
Mm-hmm.
say 50s, maybe 60s. Anyways, but everything is old there, man. It's the old
Yeah.
cars, it's dirt roads, it's old buildings. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful, and it's this untouched like time capsule of a country, or it was
Right.
at that time. And that was really cool to see as a kid. But yeah, so we're that's the setting of where we're at, and we're on a missionary trip, and we're riding in the backs of trucks and like weird, we're riding on buses with chickens and all kinds of animals, and it was like an Indiana Jones movie.
Mm-hmm.
It really was like an Indiana Jones movie. And
Did you guys stay in Havana or like a big city, or did you head out into the countryside or
yeah,
something?
we were in Havana, and we moved around to a lot of little cities because they're out reaching to these other churches and connecting with these churches that are tucked away and that don't
Yeah.
have access,
Yeah.
outside of their towns, small towns, villages, or whatever you want to call them. Churches that are you know dirt floors and just like a cement structure, like falling apart with like a banana leaf as the roof. Everybody's packed in there on a hot night in Cuba, pitch black outside. There's candles lit and everybody's packed in this fucking hut and they're sweating and they're fucking talking about Jesus, and it's all in Spanish too, so it sounds way more intense. So, like just talking about God and the spirit and all that kind of stuff, and people speaking in tongues and dancing, and Cuban music, and in church they have a lot of like worship and celebration kind of stuff, so that tied in with like the Cuban culture. It's very ritualistic almost in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a sight to see. um but yeah, so that's the kind of shit we're doing, so I'm a little kid tagging along for this stuff.
Yeah.
My friend was playing drums, and I remember the first night after the first church we went to, um, we went back to our hotel. We rode back through the jungle in a old Chevy truck in the back of it, and got dropped off at our hotel. And I go into my room. I'm sharing a room with this old guy named Oscar, and we turn on the lights, and in two of the corners, no, all four of the corners. I can't remember. Yeah, all four corners. All four corners of our room had blood.
Wow.
Had blood dripping down in all four corners. And I just remember turning on the lights and looking up at just, blood just seeping through the ceiling, pretty much. And
So wait, the blood was still wet? Or was it just, I guess, were they just stains?
Dry. It was dried.
Okay.
It was dry. Yeah, it was dry. Or it had stopped running. It wasn't like coming down to the floor.
And it was in every corner.
It was like a Carrie movie. It wasn't like when Carrie freaks out. Like it was just, so there was fucking blood, man. There's all this blood coming down, and Oscar just goes, he freaks out, and he goes over to my mom's room, and they take me out of the room and all this stuff, and they go onto the roof, and the local santeros, witch doctors, knew we were there, and had sacrificed animals in all four corners of my room over us. So when they got,
what's that for, like a protection, or?
I mean, who knows? Whatever that intent may have been, there was some form of voodoo practiced over my room with an animal sacrifice, with blood coming through. I don't know what their intent was. I mean, I'm sure they weren't very happy with my mom and her fucking crew were doing around there in town. So I'm sure they wanted to fuck out of there.
That leads me to this question of, I mean, obviously your mother's going there on missionary work. What was her intent and purpose for going there? Was it to
spread the word of God, to spread the
how did
word
she
of
feel
Jesus.
about the Santeria? Was that is it Santeria there? Or
yeah.
So what was her feeling on that?
Her feeling?
Yeah,
it's a good question, Pete. I don't know. I don't really know. I mean,
she's trying to sway those people, to bring it into their group, or
to like interact with them.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't it. That definitely, I don't think that's what they were trying to do. I think that's aggressive. That it's very aggressive out there. That stuff, So you have to be careful. I mean, we're in a third world country.
Definitely.
They're gnarly people. I mean, that are into that shit, and that's going to the root of it. Like all these people going out doing ayahuasca with shamans in
the rainforest.
The rainforest and stuff like that. I fucking think that's cool as hell, and I could talk to you all day about psychedelics and my own journey with those things, with the conscious and the subconscious. But you have to realize what you're doing in your body, like outside of those things and whatever realms you choose to, circles you choose to, operate in, or resonates with you. But you're going down to the root of some real old school shit. Those witch doctors, those fucking, santeros, or, people practicing those things in those countries are old school. That's like a different, and I'm not trying to shed negativity on any of it, because I stand very neutral on all of it. But yeah, I mean, I don't think my mother was trying to fucking poke dog in the cage. I think she was just trying to get in, do her little fucking song and dance for the word of God, and enjoy herself and get out.
No, just to get a perspective of it. If you look at Cuba and you look at a place like Haiti, the rituals that are practiced there and the paganism that's practiced there. I mean, some of it was native, but a lot of it goes back to Africa and basically the dawn of man. Those are rituals that have been practiced for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So it's absolutely heavy.
Yeah, man.
And practices that have been taught from generation to generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in a place like Cuba, that's been very, very isolated, there's a lot of negative that goes with that, but it also means that knowledge has been passed down without getting fucked with along the way, if you know what I mean.
Yes. A very pure ideology to the the realm that they are choosing to, live
Yeah.
their life through in practicing and worshiping and whoever they may be. Yeah, it's very pure. Yeah, exactly. It's the root, and for Cuba, that's the root there, and all the slave ships, I'm Puerto Rican, but Cuba and Puerto Rico, we have Afro-Ricans and Cubans and people that are heavily mixed with the slave ships all coming through those channels. And yeah, I think it's very close to the root of a lot of that stuff that you were talking about coming from Africa and things like that. So yeah, it's some intense shit.
Was Luis, was this basically like the first week or like the first couple of nights?
Yeah, this is right off the bat.
Oh,
Welcome to Cuba.
I'm off the plane. I got an AK in my face. I'm fucking riding around in a place that looks out of a movie. Through like jungles and such. And then there's people, yelling in weird languages and saying the Holy Spirit's coming through them. And then, 30 minutes later, there's blood dripping down my fucking walls. I'm fucking 13 years old. I'm like, fuck, this shit is real.
yeah.
So going back to your story, you were in the room and then they moved you from the room.
Oh yeah.
What happened from there?
So they they moved us, and we just kind of went on. They put us in a different room. That was it. I believe they, everybody met up in the morning and talked about it. There was I remember they all went in the room and started praying and anointing the walls, and I just kind of sat back and watched. But yeah, everybody came in the room. It was like this, almost good versus evil kind of moment. Like,
right.
Just like the Christians came in the room and, started praying to God and, doing some stuff that, I'm making light of it because I don't know why I'm making light of it. Because honestly, man, that shit, when you're in that kind of environment, you're seeing that, you feel something there, you truly do. And yeah, like, even I remember the next day, we were in another church. It was even more bare, it was like one cement wall and a couple of pieces of wood holding up like a bunch of banana leaves, so the dirt floor, like, and all these people, and it was like dug out. It was like a dug out ditch. It was really weird. Also, even the police, I forget, I don't know exactly what they refer to them to, if it's federales or what they call them there, but their military system that's in, like, their police essentially, they were also strange to us around there too. So it's not only like, the weird witch doctors hiding in the bushes, like, casting spells on us, but also like politically, we weren't also wanted there either, my mom and her group. So there was like a level of like secrecy as well in sneaking around to certain areas and not having too big of a group congregate. We were also bringing food, not food, clothes and toys and stuff like that for the people that, like, the poor people of Cuba. So it was like there was a lot going on with all of this. But I remember the next day we went to this hut that I just described, and it was like dug out in the back, and everybody was kind of like lined along it. It's like a big rectangle, and people were praying, and people from the missionary trip were praying over people. And I remember my mother asking me to pray, and I closed my eyes and I started to do what, my version of prayer was at that time. And I remember just closing my eyes and feeling, and I'm surrounded by people speaking in tongues, which sounds so crazy. If you're ever bored, go YouTube, Christians speaking in tongues in a group. I mean, it's crazy. It's fucking gnarly. And everybody's doing this, and it's loud, and I close my eyes and I just have this moment of pure silence. And I just heard the biggest boom, just massive boom, like an 808 drop, like a fucking atom bomb, just the biggest boom ever. And it shook me to my core. And I remember I opened my eyes and I looked over to my mom, and I stopped her and I got her to get her attention. I was like, did you hear that? Like, why isn't, like, what's going on? Like, is it, what's happening? Like, did you hear that? She goes, what are you talking about? I go, you didn't hear the big boom? And she's like, no. She's like, I told her, I was like, I was praying and everything went silent. And I just heard this boom. And she looked at me so wide eyed and crazy, and she's trying to get me to explain it. And, I mean, I don't know, say what you will from that, but that's been a moment from that trip where I was just like, holy shit, like, to this day, the man that I've become from a 13-year-old child, and what I've taken from my upbringing and what my parents tried to instill in me as far as morals and, how to survive in life with religion. I have my own opinions, and I truly believe in science at the end of the day, but I do believe that there are connections to spirituality and the conscious and subconscious and super subconscious, and I do believe in a lot of different things. But that moment has stuck with me forever. Something about that moment, and it was very intense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there was that. And then I remember us getting like, they snuck us over to this part of town that was very, 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 very poor, super poor. These people's, everything they do is looked over, and they're under a microscope, and, the police are constantly on them. And they snuck out, and it's illegal to fish there, or it was then. And they snuck out and they fished us this meal of fresh fish caught from the island. And it was a real big deal. Like, they risked their lives pretty much, right? Doing this. Like, if they were to get caught, they would their whole life, they would be put in prison for that. And I remember sitting there, and they're explaining this meal, and the way that these people were so grateful, and so, like, they risked their lives for this shit, man. Like, people really, really, truly feel these things, and to be in a third world country, and to see these people, risking their lives for their connection to spirituality, to religion, and all these things is such a gnarly thing to see, and then to be witnessing and feeling something for myself on my own, without my parents shoving it down.
Mm-hmm.
To really have a connection to I don't know, some shit.
Yeah.
It really changed. Yeah, I don't know. You want to hear
Going back to that explosion. What I was kind of getting lost in your story right there.
Sorry, I fucking, dude, you gotta tell me to shut up sometimes. I'll fucking.
No.
Oh no,
I'm meaning I was getting lost in a good way. I was kind of like, I was hanging on edge, listening, because it was making me feel things.
Yeah,
that explosion.
Yeah, I felt that I was.
What do you think that? What do you think that was? Was that a noise from the inside of you? You think, or was it some? I don't know. It sounded like it was a pretty moving experience for you.
Yeah, it was. I believe that it was just my own realization, my own moment of tapping into
something
tapping
bigger.
into something bigger.
Yeah.
Maybe possibly tying into the first time. It possibly was the first time I connected to my subconscious.
Right.
To close my
something
eyes.
Deeper, something spiritual.
Yeah. To access that. I believe that was maybe the first time in my life that was the first time that I ever connected to that part of my subconscious. Just closing my eyes and genuinely praying to something, or just to search for something, to close my eyes. And like, to this day, I'm very into meditation and the power behind it in multiple different ways, and from the physical to the mental, and I believe that's probably the first time, and I believe that's a big impactful moment and setting. I believe that setting and atmosphere is everything, and that's pretty intense setting to be in at a young age to connect with something like that.
Yeah, that certainly is.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that obviously stuck with you to the present day. So, I mean, I think a lot of us have those types of experiences too, as we, well, not a lot, but, you know, some people that has something like that happen to them, and you'll never forget that day or that moment, or, you know, in time, and you can still feel it and get those same feelings when you look back on it, you know?
Yeah. Pivotal staple moments in people's lives, you know, when you know, they really kind of shift things, start to shift, open up, and you have, yeah, man.
So, were there any other strange occurrences on the island on that trip for you?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of all of things of that nature, but I don't know. Now, where do you like? Where do you connect, you know, to these things when you look back at them? When you think about yours, like Klaus and Pete, like both of you, like when you think about those things, those moments where you realize something, you know, you open up and you see clearly, you know, dare I say, you witness some kind of aspect of your third eye or your pineal glands, and go to some real wild shit. What do you think about when you look back at those times, like,
I think
and connect to them? Like, do
yeah,
they reaffirm you?
I think that's a fantastic question, and I think there's many answers to that question, and it it totally comes down to what it was that we experienced. But there's from everything to just stuff that can't be explained to straight up fear to things that happened and you didn't put two and two together, and then you know, like you start to think years and years later, and things just don't add up, and then you start to question things. So in my case, I had. It's gonna be interesting when you listen to, if you get the time to listen to one of my
Yeah, I'm
stories,
looking
is
forward
that
to it.
I actually had something confirmed that the place where I grew up happened to be a very strange place, and I had that confirmed when we were moving away from our house. I had it confirmed by a very very old person, and that was like me putting the pieces together. And the every situation is unique, and our lives are unique, and there's so many of us that never get those pieces of the puzzle. So I was lucky to receive one of mine out of coincidence, but yeah, man, I'm like the stories that you're telling us now. That's just basically things are being thrown in your face, like, whoa, it's like a collision with something that's new but at the same time super old, but for a 13-year-old boy that it's fucking heavy.
Yeah, very, very, and yeah, you nailed it, man. You nailed it. And I feel like, you know, this Cuba story is just like, that was just the stepping stone in multiple times through my life up to present day at 31 years old, you know, where I've taken the time now over the last few years to retrace my steps, to look back at my life in increments. I chose to go in increments of 5, far back as I could, and I stopped around this time. And all of those, you know, pivotal moments in life where I've had experiences of different degrees involving all kinds of stuff. I don't know. We can talk about them too, but they all just kind of fallen together, like you said, and they all just kind of start to click. And then you start to talk to somebody else. And, you know, I run into Pete at fucking This Is Hardcore. And, you know, we both want to get the fuck out of there. And we just go on this walk around, you know, and just take a seat and just start riffing off on shit. And one person says one thing that just kind of pulls your thread just enough for you to feel comfortable to say, well, what about this? Or, oh, yeah, that. And then you both start pulling each other's thread and you start talking about it. You realize there's more people out there that have seen some shit, that have experienced some things in their own, on their own path, in their own way. And you start to connect the dots and you start to um, feel more, I don't know, normal, as normal as you can. But yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that connects to all these kinds of stories and things that click into your life and things that happen. And I believe that starting in Cuba to now, and where I'm at now, I'm actually about to enroll in college for spiritual psychology, which is crazy.
No, that sounds
And
fantastic. That's cool.
yeah, I'm really psyched about it. But yeah, I don't know. You
I
want to
mean,
talk about some
Louise,
shit?
out of all our friends, you know, I think you're one of the most like spiritually in tune people, you know, that I know, you know, seen in the last few years, especially like such like growth in you and like yearning for like, you know, knowledge.
Yeah,
And it's impressive to me, you know, and just to hear that, you know, you're going to be attending school for that right now is it's pretty cool, and I'm really really happy to hear that, man.
thanks.
Did you encounter more uh, what I would refer to as island spirituality or so-called witch doctors in Cuba
Oh,
during that
dude.
first stay? The
Um,
first stay.
yeah. So in Cuba, in, you know, Latin culture, you know, they love music, man. They love it, and they have such a connection to it, and it really connects them with with their their worshiping, you know, worship ceremonies, and a lot of that stuff connects with voodoo and things of that nature. But it also connects in Christianity too. They have a lot of, especially with my parents' church and their styles, a lot of worship and real upbeat worship, and tied in with, like, you know, Latin culture.
Yeah.
So we're at this old church with these wooden pews, and it's all cement, and it's kind of dilapidated in a corner, and it's half of it's pitch black, but they're holding this service, you know, where my mother was going to preach, and, you know, some other people were going to say some stuff, but they start everything out with worship. And my friend that's around my age, Israel, I remember he played drums. He played drums in my first punk band, and he was a drummer, and he was there playing the drums on the missionary trip. And he he's playing drums, and then all of a sudden this other guy comes and joins up with him. He's got his own little thing going on, and, you know, there's like it's just got this, like, the rhythm in the room, you know, was the vibe, and the music and everything was very almost putting you in a trance, you
Yeah.
know.
Magic.
It was yeah, there was more there. And you literally saw the vibe, the congregation of those people that were there change.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point it was really weird. A large part of the congregation, all the men and a couple young boys all went upstairs, and they all went upstairs in the balcony, and they're all dancing on their own, and then the women were downstairs dancing on their own. I remember this one woman doing this gnarly, like what you would see in like a movie as like a voodoo witch doctor kind of gnarly dance in the aisle, you know?
Yeah, I understand.
And
Like almost like sensual in a way.
yeah, and I truly like I watched an entire group of this church just become uh, put under in a trance, and it was
Mm-hmm.
literally people were changing almost physically, like moving their bodies in odd ways and really getting it, you know, really fucking going somewhere else. Like
Yeah. I mean, things like that, but the music will almost revert people back to like a primitive state,
Yeah, yeah,
or
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. I mean, spirituality.
to like
If you
in an animalistic state as
yeah,
well. You
but
know.
also, I mean, also, it again we go back to the dawn of man and whatever was before that, rhythm and dancing. What we're talking about here, I mean, Christian or not or Christian, this is a form of ritual, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
it's basically a collective spell.
Yes. So my mother catches on and interrupts the worship and stops and starts calling out like the pastor for what's going on, and everyone's so confused, and it got really weird in that church, and people were very offended, and it was very tense, very fucking tense in that room, you know. And I'll never forget how intense I felt, and how everything, just the atmosphere and everything, once it got disrupted, you really felt a shift. And at the end of the day, they found out that the witch doctor was had put a spell on the church, and the witch doctor was amongst them, um,
Wow.
uh, like leading the congregation. So yeah, I witnessed a witch doctor. I guess put everybody under a gnarly fucking spell, and everyone started freaking out. It was pretty crazy.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
a pretty good story. I mean, so
That's
your
fantastic.
mom when she would like
I may or
interrupt
may
this
not have
actual
left out one or two
what's
things
that?
that I may or may not have left out one or two things in that story that I just couldn't even get out of my mouth. You know, it was very intense, guys. It was crazy.
I
Uh-huh.
understand.
Would love to hear it, but that's up to your discretion. You know.
Yeah.
It's it must have been like like you said, a very heavy thing, but also with your mother interrupting this type of like ritual going on.
Well,
I
here,
could I
my
could
mother
imagine.
interrupted. My mother interrupted because all the men at the top
Uh huh.
um, all started to make out with each other
Whoa.
and become very very feminine
Really.
with each other in a very weird way. And while everybody was dancing and doing all this shit, man,
Mm-hmm.
it was gnarly. It was gnarly to like look up and just see like, you know, I don't know, like 12, 15 dudes all just like go from dancing and singing to like
And
grabbing.
from a masculine culture too, as
Yes,
well.
from a
You know.
very masculine culture. Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
from a
Yeah,
Latin masculine culture.
yeah. So yeah, I think that's definitely that's the peak of that trip, I
So when
would
your
say.
mother interrupted this, was it? I mean, was it like almost like the record in the stopping with the needle scratching? You know, was it just complete
Oh
awkward
yeah.
and quiet?
Oh yeah. It was her and this guy Oscar. I'll never forget Oscar. He was this big dude, big fucking dude. He had arms like tree trunks, man. And and uh and they just started like calling. They pretty much just started calling him out. Like they knew what was going on. They pretty much were just like, this is voodoo. This is witchcraft. This is Santeria. This is what is going on here. You know, like
Yeah.
it just got real intense, and then they started. You know, the pastor and was so offended by it, and people started to get, you know, their back up against the wall, kind of start to, get real lippy and some yelling, and it was crazy.
Did you see like a shift or switch in the people that had been like taking part in it, like almost vulnerability in a way?
It was like people didn't even know what was happening. They
Yeah.
didn't even like there was a the elders of a church. There's older people and things of that. In all churches, and like those were the people, like the pastor, his wife, maybe a couple other people that were all like getting into it with my mother and her group of people that were with us. But the overall congregation was all just like kind of just there.
Wow.
And yeah, and they moved us out of the room shortly after that. We tore everything down and got out of there.
So how was the rest of the trip after this experience? Was that like the pinnacle of everything?
Yeah, that was definitely like the peak. That was where it peaked. And then we were out of there like 2 days later. 2 days later,
Mm-hmm.
we spent the last 2 days at like a nicer part of Cuba.
Yeah.
That was not so in the cut, not so rural.
So as the years passed by, have you like ever, as an adult, spoke to your mother about that experience since then?
Oh yeah. Oh dude,
Yeah.
I've talked to my parents about all kinds of shit like that.
And
what do you think
like,
about this 15 years?
What does she think about that? Yeah, exactly. Like 15 or so years later, like
yeah, 20 years.
Yeah,
dude, it's funny. I mean, she believes in all of it. She definitely is like, yeah, that shit's very real. And we, like my parents since then, they don't go to any kind of church, but they definitely believe in God and my parents are both very spiritually in touched people. And it's been fun having conversations about those things and that perspective of life from back then to now, and what they've held on to and what's affected them, what's affected me. And yeah, I mean, this shit's real, man. That's at the end of the day, we saw it. It was there. I was, kind of exposed to a lot of things of that nature at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
That's a great story, man. It's pretty
multiple,
heavy stuff.
Yeah, it's multiple stories. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that's I guess those are my stories. That's what I've got so far.
Yeah, well, it's kind of left me lost for words. Hearing it all, especially the end piece there, which I know you were a bit reluctant to speak about, but I'm happy you did.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Luis. We had a great time talking with you today.
Yeah, this was an honor. It turned out to be everything we wanted it to be.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
you shared a lot with us, and I really, 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 really enjoy the story. And I know we have a lot more to talk about as time passes. And I know we're going to have you back on here again at some point.
Yeah,
would
you be down for episode 2?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we will have you. We'll definitely have you back in the future.
Yeah.
Yep. I know you have a lot.
This is cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Pete. No.
No worries.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea and thing that you guys are doing here. So, I definitely thought about it for a while, and at first I thought like, I don't know, but then part of me was like, yeah, I could do that. And this is the vibe you guys have on this thing so far. This is pretty rad, and I would love to talk more about other things along these lines for sure.
The way we see it, we're heading towards into the dark, and we're bringing as many friends as we can with us. and tonight we went to Cuba, and it's been fucking amazing. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It certainly has. Thanks again, Luis. We're gonna sign out now, and
Thank you, guys.
We'll talk very soon. Once the episode's ready and mixed, we'll send a copy to you and we'll check it out.
Cool.
And
Awesome.
Luis,
all right, Klaus.
yeah, I want to thank you again. Hopefully, I'll see you. I know I'll see Pete, but I would like to see you too this summer, in this summer of 2018. That would be really cool.
That'd be rad. I would love that. Hopefully, we can make that happen.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do one of these in person and really get a fucking vibe going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you first told me this, I was like, dude, I'll come to your house. Let's do this in person.
Yeah.
That's the only way I'll do it. All right, guys.
All right. Thanks again, Luis. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.